we moved here from Wisconsin, and when we came, we brought 5 horses and a goat, just one at that point. That was just one that we kind of rescued, and didn't even have chickens at that point. But then our boys were growing up, and they wanted to be able to show at fair, and we got involved in 4-H. In our club here in the area was the Magi 4-H Club, and one of the people was John Finnefrock, a former Farm Family of the Year winner, and he kind of got us started in sheep. And so we went from 2 little sheep to 4 sheep to 6 sheep to like 40.
Too many sheep.
40 sheep. It seemed like in no time at all. And during that time, I have a cousin in New York State who had dairy goats, and she had 17 babies one year, and she's like, "Oh no, too many babies. I don't know how to get rid of all these babies. We can't keep them all." So I'm like, "Oh, I wish I could take some." So we did, and we flew 2 Dolings from central New York to our farm. I picked them up in St. Paul, and they were Nubian goats. And they started our first herd, which was a dairy herd.
People's faces at the airport thought there were dogs coming out of that dog carrier.
Instead it was
Pretty
goats.
surprised.
And so then we started with Nubians, and we kind of grew that up to where we probably had, 25 or so of those, and the boys were out of clover buds and into regular 4-H, and so they were showing at the fair, and then they could also go over to Northeast Livestock Fair, which they love to do in September. And then we weren't big milkers because I was working, and it was hard to get out there and do milking on top of teaching, on top of Pete being on the road a lot. So we decided to get into the boar goats. So we had the meat goats. So we moved from the dairy goats into thinking we didn't want to milk as much. And so we started doing the meat goats with the boar goats. And we picked up a couple of those, and just like the sheep, they multiply. And so we went from just a couple to many. And then we started moving. The boys really liked I think just the huskiness and just the big horns and all on the boar goats a little better than the dairy goats, and no milking, so that was good. So we started to move more toward the boar goats, and then one thing at the fair, we were trying to expand how many boar goats were in the show. I've kind of worked to do that. I've brought some people in, some kids in the last few years to try to get them to show in the open show, and they come and they help with kidding, and they help with clipping and getting the goats all ready for fair, just to try to expand that group at the fair. The fair is really important to us, and was an important experience for our children, and we felt like we really needed to make that experience as special as we possibly could. Into being Build the Barn Committee, and because we really wanted to have something that we could show our animals in at county fair that was adequate on super hot days, rainy days, because there were holes in the roof. It was an old building, and it really was too small for what it was used for. And so we started the Build the Barn effort to try to build a larger facility, and that is expensive. And we raised up more than $30,000. Really nice out there. It really upgraded our fairgrounds to have the building and the wash racks and the arena put in there, and it couldn't have been done without everybody in our community coming together.
So the 2 boys, they showed regularly at Northeast Livestock and the Carlton County Fair, and then they also went down to State Fair.
And Nicholas was an ambassador, and then he was president or chair of the ambassador group, and did a lot of activities through that, like Share the Fun. He was the MC for Share the Fun for several years in a row, and we participated in a lot of the different activities, fundraising in our club too. We used to have the club meetings here years ago, and then our Namaji 4-H club got so big it got to be too many people to have in our basement, and then we started meeting at the school in Barnum. But at that point, one of the things that we did, which was kind of different I think for this area, was we had Animal Science Day here, and we had people bring some animals in. Like we don't have any dairy cows, so it was the Rubishes brought in cows for that, and then we had all our goats, our sheep, our horses, at that point our chickens that we used, and we brought in some experts who came and talked about that species, that type of animal, on care and health, and some grooming with that. And that was kind of a novelty that we opened up to all the other 4-H groups in the county to come in for that day. It was really a great time for the kids to come in and say, hey, would I be interested in a sheep project? Would I be interested in a cow project or a chicken project? It's a great way to get the education out in a kind of a hands-on way. And what we did in the ones that we had at the fairgrounds, the 4-H'ers, many of the 4-H'ers, the older ones, were doing a lot of the talking about how to take care of the animals. So it was great to have the older kids teaching the younger kids. So there's that, and then of course there's always the state fair, which is the big culmination of the year. And our kids went down to state fair every year from 6th grade on, either with sheep or goats, and just loved the experience down there in the community for Carlton County kids to be together down there and have that shared experience. It's really been a memory.
Well, Nicholas, I think the one that was the 4-H ambassador, he really benefited a lot from that. He went to the University of Minnesota, and I think his 4-H experience got on his resume and allowed him to be part of the Honor Society at they exchanged their experience, putting them with kids who are from more rural parts of the state, and you're putting them together with them, and I think it's a great experience that way. And I don't know that he would have had that opportunity had he not been involved in 4-H, as much as he was.
And Nathan also went to the U of M, Twin Cities, and what always made me laugh was both boys, when they were doing some of their classes and they had to do some kind of a speech or a research project, would pick one related to it was just always interesting how they pulled that 4-H experience back into their college experiences, and always did very well on them. And because so many people don't have those experiences, that they were kind of fascinated to find out that they grew up on a farm and they were involved in 4-H. And I think that when they do have some of that on their resumes, like other interests or whatever. And I think that that's a real conversation starter when they're in an interview. It's a really good way to kind of to show that they came with the values they came from. To say, I was a 4-H'er, I grew up on a farm, we showed and took care of animals. That really speaks to character and a dedication to hard work.
Yeah, so we have an old dairy barn, and so we did some changes to the barn, obviously, to get it working for goats and sheep. We had some lambing areas for, it's northern Minnesota, so of course you're always lambing when the weather's not real desirable for that. We even built a small heated room in the barn. The
Hilton.
The boys call it the Hilton. Frequent points for staying there overnight, and then we've had a lot of fun with fencing. We only have about 20 acres here, so over the years we've played with different forages. We've redone our field several times to try to get the right mix for feeding the animals that we had. Sometimes successful, sometimes not so successful. And so we hayed the 20 acres for a while, and then after the boys went on to college, we sort of decided to sell the hay equipment.
It was before that, to save our marriage.
Yeah.
Because haying is hard on a marriage.
Well, and it's always during 4th of July and then right during Fair Week, so it got to be,
Do you think we should rake? Should we rake? Should we cut today? Should we not cut today? Should we bale today? Oh, maybe one more day. I mean, yeah, it was hard. That was me. I was saying that. He's like, calm down. It's fine.
It's just hay.
Grass. That's been my involvement in it. More the background of moving the large.
You're my bale.
Yeah.
So when we need a new bailout, it's like, honey, it's only 25 below zero. Could you move a bale in tonight?
Well, when you have small animals like that, I mean, it's not like you're calling the vet for every ailment that you might have, because it's just not practical. And there's, at least here, there's not a large amount of vets that will come and work on small animals. So a lot of that you had to develop yourself, or in a relationship with one of our local vets to help, transfer some of the knowledge she had to us.
And so a relationship with your veterinarian is super important.
So-
There's been many a night when I've had a difficult delivery and I can't get those babies out that I've had to call other sheep farmers, other farmers in the area to come in and help, because I'm stuck. I'm not sure what to do, because it is a learning process. And anybody who's been through any kind of deliveries with any animal, whether it's a cow or a pig or goats, sheep, whatever, there are those times and you kind of panic, because you're out there and you feel really alone in your barn and you've got your long sleeves and you've got your lube and it's like, I can't get them out. And I just don't think that there's any way, especially with small livestock, that you can get through without your fellow farmers. I think that's one thing that in our community here in Carlton County we have really strong support for other farmers, and just if somebody needs help, you go help them. And sometimes it's in the middle of the night. Hey,
It's always in the middle.
wake,
of the
you awake? And then people come and they're just really been great about that. But the real key is the community. You can't do this, I don't think, without your other fellow farmer friends who are going to help out. And sometimes that, you help them in return, and it just all comes together. Then you get down to the fair in August, and you've bonded all year through these projects of helping each other with these projects, that you get down there and it really is like a celebration of farming and livestock and just being together and in a common goal of raising livestock the best you can raise them. And so then we're down to just one horse, and we have a donkey and some chickens, and probably our high was probably about 40 goats, maybe 45, depends on which time of the year it is, because in the spring, of course, they're more with the babies, and then some of those move out, and then we don't have as many after harvest or selling them off to other 4-H'ers to try to grow that market. And that's where we stand today. But this is my girl.
Oh, there
Right? Yes, you're my girl. Yeah. So this is Angel. She's my favorite. She's a fair favorite. I'd take her out at the fair, and she'd go out and greet people, and she was friendly enough so even little kids could come up and touch her horns. And yes, good girl.